I want my guys to be dangerous with and without, a jacket on. I want them to be dangerous at the beach. I want them to be dangerous, on the New York City subway in the wintertime.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for watching the Jason Chambers podcast. And if you're a fan of MMA, you know this guy for knocking GSP unconscious. This is Matt Serra. Matt, I fucked up GSP Serra. I think it's going to be a new nickname. You can wear that brand forever.
No, man, that's fine. I thought you were going to be like Frank Trigg. You know what I mean? I thought you were going to be like, he's known for knocking out Frank Trigg. I hate bringing up George because he's such a nice guy.
I know,
even though Frank Trigg's a nice guy now.
But he's a nice guy now. Now he's a nice guy. So the GSP is awesome. But honestly, let's say every person that knows you outside of the MMA space that I talk to, I'm like, oh, Matt Serra's coming out. I'm like, Matt Serra, I know the name. The guy that knocked out GSP. Oh, that guy. I fucking love that guy. Yeah, he caught GSP. That's kind of your big claim to fame in terms of outside of the Henzo and all the kind of the groupies of the Henzo Gracie clan that we are,
Yeah, I mean, as far as that, I guess from the general public, but you know what? Some people, they find out that it's funny. A lot of people, it gets a lot of views. The thing I do with Dana called Dana White Looking for a Fight. Yeah. So some people watch that and then they backtrack and they go, oh, you were a fighter too, and yada yada. Yeah. So I don't know, man. Listen, however people know me, it's flattering,
So going back to we were talking a little bit before we got out here, and I'm gonna butcher his name again, but for the guy, to me it's crazy because I grew up in the same era you did, watching the first UFCs. And I was a fan of yours growing up, and I've known Henzo since the mid '90s. So for me, it's crazy to think someone wouldn't know who Matt Serra was just by looking at you on the show. And you do that show with my buddy Dean Thomas, right? I think with yeah, you guys are
Dean. It's myself, Dean Thomas, and Dana, and we Dana White Looking for a Fight on YouTube, and it's us just we go around looking for talent for the UFC at some smaller events, and when we're in that state or even sometimes that country. We do what's known in that in that town or in that state or whatever. Like for instance, we were in Alaska. We did dog sledding. We were in Texas. We actually got on bulls. Dean. The last one we went back to Texas. Dean was actually a rodeo clown type of thing. We were in LA. We did stand up comedy at the Laugh Factory. So it's a cool show, man. It's a fun show if you've never seen it. And
out of all the stuff you've done, man, I've done some of that crazy crap too. I mean, out of all the stuff you've done, what's been the most terrifying? Legitimately terrifying. Now I gotta act like this is gonna be really dangerous. For me, I did stand up once. That was worse than any fight I've ever been in. Doing stand up.
Yeah, the stand up was definitely adrenaline wise, and the payoff was probably the best. It was interesting, very interesting.
Did you write your own stuff for that, or did somebody
100%. No, I did my own thing. Dean did his own thing. Dean did his own thing, and we kind of got set up for that. In other words, this was a guy named The Tooth that was on the show, Nick the Tooth.
Yeah, of course.
And he was off the show. He got off the show right before we did that episode. Abruptly, and. So that's when we got Dean Thomas on the show. So we had 2 days notice to know that for Dean at least, to know that we're going to LA and doing the episode and whatever else. So Dean got on that episode and has been on with us ever since. So yeah, I had one bit I used this whole analogy with the Rocky movies and life and fighting and relationships. And listen, they were kind to us because it was a UFC type crowd, but it went well. It went fucking well, and it was I remember we were in some, I don't know, they put us up at some fancy hotel in fucking Beverly Hills or wherever it was afterwards, and I remember just being on the balcony, and I was talking to Dana or Dean. I can't believe we fucking just did stand up comedy at the Laugh Factory. I had a high that's the one where I had as far as a payoff, it felt like the feeling winning a fight, that type of feeling. It felt like
adrenaline rush.
Yeah, it was man, it was on cloud nine. I'm wow, it was weird. That was weird. But as far as scary, I did jump on a bull, man. And jumping on a bull, literally rode a bull. It's not It was like a baby bull or some shit. It was a bull.
Right. It wasn't like a sedated calf or something.
No.
You were just riding veal to the market. Okay.
Exactly. It's nothing, you know.
Right.
It wasn't the cow with the udders. It was a fucking bull. And and you know, you can watch the episode. It was crazy. So, and Dana did it too. That's why, listen, I give Dana all the credit in the world, because if you watch that, listen, guy's got more money than anybody. He doesn't. I got 3 kids. I'm getting on that fucking bull. You know what I'm saying? I'm making this show's got to work. Dana doesn't got to get on the bull. Just like he didn't have to go swimming with the sharks. One time we swam with the sharks and stuff. So I don't know, man. I give him a lot of credit, because when you watch that episode, when Dana falls off the bull, obviously it came down like real close to him, dude. It was like scary shit. And that's because that was one of the most scary things I ever did, because it had that feeling like when you're going into a fight, like you're gonna get touched. Right. It's gonna end, but there's gonna be. I'm not getting out of this unscathed. You know what I mean? So it was one of those feelings.
Right. That's cool, man. You get to say you rode a bull at the end. That's got to be a quick. How long did you stay on for?
I have no clue, but I actually landed I actually pulled the ripcord. Like I was on it, and instead of I fucking kind of just let go. Well, I landed on my feet.
Oh, yeah.
But oh yeah, it was wild, man. Yeah, you can check it out. It's the Texas episode.
Did you or Dean last longer?
What's that?
Well, Dean didn't ride it the first time, right? You said he just
no, Dean didn't.
So he's never ridden the bull.
No, Dean didn't ride the bull, but I'll tell you right now, he earned his money on our latest episode when we went to Houston, the one that just came out. Mm-hmm. He was a rodeo clown, and he stayed a little. He tried to earn his money too much on that one. The thing came close to kicking him in the face. Listen, the show's a blast, man. I mean, because I get along with Dean Thomas and Dana so well. And, hey, man, at the end of the day, it's traveling with a couple of buddies and doing some wacky shit. And I knock off a lot of bucket list stuff that I wouldn't have even put on my bucket list. Like, I don't have a fucking bucket list. I'll tell you right now, Jason Chambers, I'm a homebody. I don't do shit unless I'm doing that for the show or I'm at my school.
Yeah.
I mean, so the fact that I get to do all this shit and get paid for it, awesome.
Did you become a homebody when you had kids? Because it becomes a different dynamic as you have a family, right? Your focus totally shifts, or it should, at least, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, listen, I have a wife and three daughters, and it definitely grounds you. I mean, when you're going out, looking for some dates or whatever it is, you got a different mindset and a different kind of lifestyle, pretty much. You know what I mean? Now, again, it grounds you. I would say that. You know what I mean?
So the guys that look you up from the show and they go, oh, this guy Matt Serra, like he has a fighting record, and he beat GSP. So you started training way back in the Henzo days. We started talking about this, and I'm gonna butcher his name again, but there was a guy, I think Henzo's first black belt in the U.S., Craig Kukuk, was that his name? Yeah,
Craig Kukuk was the first American black belt under Elio Gracie and Horion Gracie and that whole Torrance crew. You know what I mean? Like the Gracie brothers from there. Right. So he trained at Torrance Academy with Hoyce and all them, and he went over in Brazil and he got his black belt, and then he came over in 1990 in the early, was it 94, 93? It was after the first UFC, So, and he was teaching one day a week in Manhattan in the village over at Oishu's Judo Club, and it was downtown, and I found that out through Black Belt magazine or some shit back in the day. We're talking before the internet. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah, sure.
Old as hell.
You had to get Inside Kung Fu and Black Belt magazine.
Yeah, that's how you found out about it.
That's the first. There'd be a Hickson Gracie seminar poster in the back, and it'd also have Dan Severin and Keith Hackney doing a seminar the same day.
Exactly, and there's no Google search back then. You have a Black Belt magazine, you find this out. So he taught one day a week, and that eventually led to 3 days a week. And then I would take a trip out to Red Bank, New Jersey. Now that's almost 3 hours from where I'm at, and from Long Island, just to do a private lesson with the guy. There was no, what the kids don't understand now. It's how man. But there was no jiu-jitsu on every corner, man. There was no jiu-jitsu anywhere. In Long Island, the East Coast back then, there was Steve Maxwell, who was affiliated with the Gracie brothers. And then there was the Craig Kukuk, who was kind of like thrown out by he had a falling out with Horion and them. And so he was like, there was a thing called the Gracie newsletter back in the day. That's how I found out about this Craig Kukuk. So I knew he was legit because I remember they announced they gave him his black belt. And then they said, nah, he's not with us anymore. And this and I go, well, I don't know. The guy obviously knows fucking jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? So when they went to say he couldn't use Gracie jiu-jitsu and he used just Brazilian jiu-jitsu at that point, and he partnered up with Renzo Gracie. So when I met Craig, I met Renzo a couple of years later, and he came over a couple of years later in 1996, Renzo. And then it was the Gracie Kukuk Academy in 26th or 27th Street in Manhattan.
Is that the old one that was upstairs, like the little crack house downstairs? I've been there. Is that the one?
No.
When Danaher still had hair.
You're thinking of the one on 37th Street.
Oh yeah, that's 37.
That was above. That was the next place. That was above. That was above a methadone clinic. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So you see a lot of interesting types on the.
Oh I know, that was a crazy spot, man. It's crazy to see.
But that was wacky. But the one before that, then eventually, Craig and Renzo split up. They had their thing. And, everybody went with Renzo. I went with Renzo. It was, even though I started with Craig wasn't a very personable guy. He wasn't. Renzo became very shortly. Renzo, first of all, he took me under his wing. And you could tell the guy he was a genuine person. He cared.
Yeah, super
The other guy did not give a fuck about anything. He was, man, I'm not against Germans, but he was very just. Stoic. He was just, I don't know, man. It was just.
You train now. You leave now training. Yeah.
You think I would know? You think the guy would? I don't know. I've been with the guy from the beginning, and I don't know. He was a hard guy to get close to. So, it was a no-brainer for me. So I've been with Renzo ever since, obviously.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I don't think I've ever met anyone that's ever met Renzo that doesn't just automatically love the guy. He just, every time you run into him, it's like you're his best friend that he hasn't seen in 30 years. Hey, my brother, good to see you. How you doing? Hey, I'm so happy you're here. He's like, what's your name? So I love that guy.
I seen him do that with cab drivers, and he finds out where the guy's from Haiti, what town he's from, and he's an amazing person, and so he does a lot for a lot of people. So I'm so happy that he's built such an empire.
So when you first started training with Renzo, did you want to do? Was your goal self-defense? Was it to get into the jiu-jitsu aspect because you found it just intriguing, or was it I want to get into some sort of no holds barred or mixed martial arts, whatever they would, no rules fighting that they would still call it back then?
Yeah, listen, when my goal from the very beginning, I exceeded my dreams, you know what I mean? Like my goals, I guess you could say, because when I first found out about jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Gracie jiu-jitsu, I was around 17. I saw these VHS tapes. I'm sure you've seen them, being an OG.
Panther Production VHS tapes.
It's not. Yes, they're basic instructions, but before that, there was a thing called Gracie in Action.
Oh, I remember the Gracie in Action. Yeah. Sure.
Gracie in Action is Volume 1 and Volume 2. And I was 17 when I seen that. So, 1992, 91, whatever it was. And it was all, and back then it wasn't mixed martial arts. It was Vale Tudo, means anything goes in Brazil and Portuguese, whatever. And or else NHB, no holds barred, and it was more style versus style. That's what it was. It's hard to believe now because when kids grow up now, because it's been around for 30 years now, whatever. People know what real fighting is. When we grew up, Jason, I'm assuming you're in your 40s. No?
I'm 41, yeah.
All right, you're a little younger than me. I'm 47, but around the same thing. Like, we didn't know what really worked. Did the karate guy beat the wrestler?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Never do a high kick because you can get taken down. All these silly things. You never knew what worked as a kid.
We thought what worked was the shit we saw like in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Karate Kid. We'd see like a couple Chuck Norris. I remember one time I had a fight against a guy that was an Army Green Beret, and my friend's like, yo, he's a Green Beret. He's gonna fuck you up, man. He knows fucking special forces shit. And like they trained maybe 3 days on the ground with someone who did Aikido, you know? So like, and I wasn't a good striker. It was like the worst like slap boxing match to be able to hold him and just flop on my ass. I mean, it's so funny to think how the sport has really just evolved from, there used to be, that was a legitimate fight. They ask you, what do you think you weigh? You kind of weighed in on your own. You show up, 15 to 30 pounds within that spectrum. You're fighting a guy who's like fucking going to wear, like boxing shorts and a glove.
Oh no, for sure. Oh no, it was wacky back then. But like when I watched these fights and these tapes in Brazil, and I was like, how many other kids around were, the world. I was that tough guy in the high school where I'm like, I had my share of like scraps, So I thought I was a tough guy because, I could take a punch and whatever else, I can give a punch. But then I saw these tapes, I go, oh my God, if I see one of these little skinny Brazilians, I don't want to be held down and not be able to get out. This is fucking dead. These guys, they're at their mercy. And I didn't like knowing that there was somebody, there was people out there with the ability to do that to me. So I'm like, I have to learn this. I knew that as a kid because I was always fascinated with hand-to-hand combat. And I knew I needed to learn it. And then my dream was starting to be like, maybe, one day I gotta, because I was a kid still, I'm like, I gotta find out where I can learn this. I want to study it. And then imagine one day I can have a school and then maybe I can do it. So I can have a challenge match. Somebody comes in. I don't want a fucking challenge match now, obviously. But like, as a kid, I'm like, I want to be able to learn this. I just want to learn the art more than anything.
Right.
And then maybe have a fight in Brazil. You got to understand, this is before the first UFC.
Right.
And then 1993 came along, and no, I'm sorry, 92 obviously came around. That came first, and I graduated high school. I was supposed to get into the military, and I was supposed to go into the Marines. I got into a street fight or whatever, and because of the original charge, I wasn't accepted into the military, so I was sitting in limbo. And I didn't know what the fuck to do because I didn't want to go to college. I knew that wasn't my strong suit, Jason, So with the books. So I didn't know what to do because my whole goal was like, I was going to do I was going to go into the Army, Marines actually. And I was in the delay entry program. I got into this situation, got into this fight. Now I don't know what to do for my life. I saw a seminar for Horion and Hoist Gracie in Waterbury, Connecticut in 1992. Wow. And that summer. I took a road trip with a buddy of mine. We drove over to Connecticut, and I did that seminar with them. And at that seminar, they were talking about this thing they were doing, the UFC, and they were talking about how it's going to be on pay-per-view. And even if you knew anybody that would be interested in like competing in,
they were just recruiting for the first UFC.
But it was weird. First of all, I didn't think it was going to really happen, kind of thing. I'm like, that sounds like blood sport. Like, even though I seen those fights in Brazil at that point, I was just. But first of all, you got to understand, when I took that seminar, David Adib, I don't know if you ever heard of him. He was at that seminar too.
Adib,
he's Mickey Gall's jiu-jitsu instructor. Yeah. I don't know. It's just funny that he was there too, and it's another old. So, the following year is when that the UFC came out. I'm like, holy shit, that's the guy Hoist that was teaching the seminar, and then the rest is history with that. And then again. Shortly after that, Craig Kukuk moved there, and then Henzo. Kind of got into the story backwards, but there you go.
Yeah,
that's how I got involved.
Well, it is. It's crazy. Like, people nowadays don't realize how lucky they are that they can open Google Maps and then there's 10 black belts within 50 miles of their house. It's fucking. I remember like when I lived in the Midwest, man. The first Henzo seminar I went to was like 1996. There was 50 white belts, I think 2 blue belts, and 1 purple belt from Brazil. And that was like, everybody would watch those blue belts roll. Like, they were just like, wow, the craziest, best, jiu-jitsu guys. Sport was just
purple belt, brown belt. That shit was like unicorn back in the day. You're not seeing too many
for sure.
It's like catching Bigfoot.
There was there was nobody to train with, So like the sport like evolved so slowly because Carlson Gracie Jr. and Sr. were in Chicago, so that was like the only Gracie school that opened up. But everybody else had to train. Like Jeff Kern was way up north, had a blue belt from Pedro Sauer. The guy that that I was training with, Joe Goitia, was the one bringing Renzo in like back in the 90s and stuff for like seminars, and it was a JKD school, so it kind of blended kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, and stuff like that. So that's, but you're getting this, like the technical aspects are so, it takes so long to really improve versus you training at Renzo's, you're getting new, pristine, amazing jiu-jitsu refined every day, multiple times a day. It probably took, everyone says, oh, it used to take 8 years to get a blue belt back in the day. I'm like, yeah, because it was a blue belt teaching you, and every twice a year you'd see 4 new moves for 3 hours, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Like
that's
I think
true.
I think of most of the blue belts now, like especially Nogi, would like when I was a blue belt, like these white belts would have smashed me. They're so much more technical. The sport's gotten so big and better, in my opinion.
Yeah, sure. Like everything evolves, obviously, and there's so many more eyes on it and minds on it, and so I mean, you know, the evolution is there. You know, having said that, I am a fundamentals freak. I love the fundamentals. That's something you can do forever. But I'm constantly adding to my arsenal, man. You know, I got so many young guns with me that are living on the legs, and I'm learning different entries and finishes with entries into the Ashigaramis and the outside Ashi, and it's fun. Listen, it never ends. You know, you just have to know what's for you and add that into your game and whatnot. But like, look, man, after this, I'm meeting 2 of my black belts at 5:30, man. I'm training with them today. You know, you look on my Instagram, you see me rolling with my 310 pound, I'm being generous, maybe 320 pound brother-in-law, Edwin. I was rolling with him the other day. Dude, it's all I do to stay in shape now is jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
That's all I do.
I used to hate road work. Do you like getting if you're doing something like boxing or doing jiu-jitsu and you get your cardio and it just time passes so much easier than like trying to get out there and put left foot in front of right foot for the same fucking 6 miles a day.
Jay, man, if you see me walking, you'd be fucking. Well, I can like fake it for here and there, but eventually I need 2 new knees. Oh, so geez. If you see me roll, you'd be like, oh, he's fine. I'm not running for shit, man. There's a zombie invasion. Hand me a fucking pickaxe and I'll hold them back. I'm not running. I went to show my kid how to do a cannonball into the pool, and I'm fucking like a penguin. My knees are bone on bone. They're bone on bone from, I guess, all the wear and tear. That, you know, they tell me that it's part that, part, you know, just the way I'm built. When there's no cartilage in there, so it sucks. So eventually, it's inevitable. I'm going to need new knees. So I'm pushing that back as far as possible. I remember I spoke about it with Bisping because he had it done. Right. And he's good, man. That guy's running. And he said, man, you get your life back. But I have a life. The only place I got to run maybe is in VR, and I don't need my legs. I don't know.
Do you ever have any ACL surgeries?
Sorry?
Do you ever have an ACL surgery?
What surgery?
ACL.
No. Knock on wood. I never had any injuries. With not like that. I mean, the worst kind of thing I had besides my knees is, you know, I herniated a couple of discs getting ready for the Hughes fight. So I had to get like epidural because my back. The back is the fucking. You get your back fucked up.
Yeah, that's like
the worst thing ever. Like, you know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah.
Like I'm sitting here talking to you. I'm not nagging you here. My knees, I'm fine. But again, running is out of the question. So. You know, it is what it is.
So when you started training, like I would imagine the classes were super heavy on the gi, and then what a lot of guys do, right? Like as they start fighting, they take the gi off and they never put it back on. Did you keep the gi on, off, and where do you stand on preferring to train gi or no gi if you've got 1 hour a week?
Oh well, now like today I'm meeting my guys later and I'm going to be doing no gi, but I prefer gi. One, it slows everything down. The friction. You know, it doesn't hurt as far as with the finishing with the arm locks and whatever else. I like to strangle people. To me, it's a jacket. I'm not, listen, I don't hate on guys for whatever is your thing is your thing. If you like there's guys that take the gi and they start undressing you and they feed it through for the worm guard and this guard and that. If that's your thing, have fun with it. It ain't my fucking thing. I'm going to I hand this to that and that. No, my game with the gi and without the gi is very similar. With the gi, though, it really does take away the leg locks a lot. I mean, there's still stuff there. But if you don't want to get these, it's just you could put shit down and just put a stop to it. There's a reason why the guys that are like the best without the gi can't do the same thing with the gi. Right. And it's not because, I mean, it's just like it could put a stop to a lot of those attacks. And that's just a fact. Yeah. But that doesn't. Right.
Do you feel like as you gotten older? Because I took a gi off for a long time, man. And the last time I put a gi on was when I got my black belt from Henzo, and I was like, oh fuck, I gotta put a gi back on. But so much of like the same thing, like what I use, like is just the over. I always preach like overhooks, underhooks, and like things that are applicable across the board. Because the reason I didn't train gi for a long time with MMA was like it started to get overcomplicated with like feeding lapels underneath legs and going inverting here. And I'm like, that's not really applicable for like street MMA or even a real competition. Like, and especially if you live in Florida or you live in one of these hot climates, like you got to ask dudes to put bathrobes on before you fight. And it's just, it's awkward for everyone.
No one's wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, listen, I want my guys to be dangerous with and without, a jacket on. I want them to be dangerous at the beach. I want them to be dangerous, on the New York City subway in the wintertime. I mean, at the end of the day, the gi is nothing but it's the same thing as a North Face jacket. You should be able to strangle somebody with that. They don't overthink it. People think, oh, that's for the sport. I want to be a fighter. But what about as a training tool? That's what people don't talk about. Like for a resistance tool. If you're an explosive fucking middle school, you've been wrestling since middle school and now you take a jiu-jitsu class, you're going to be hard to keep down. I'll tell you right now, you're a lot easier to keep down when a guy's got your grips and of the gi. Now it forces you can't just get up, okay? Because now it forces you to go down, and now you got to start working your butterfly sweeps. Now you got to start working your arm locks, the triangles, the omoplatas. You know what I mean? It's all fun and games till you meet a better wrestler. So the gi forces you to stay down there. Yeah. And you can make the same argument if you're on top. If I'm standing up in your guard, Jason, going to pass, you can break my posture without the gi. It's a lot. To get that solid statue-like base, you got picture just putting something around the neck where you can grab and just try to mess with my base. That's how you start getting that posture where you're used to that resistance. Right. So you have to stand up with proper posture with your pelvis forward, and I don't know. So it's great as a resistance tool. You just learn to break the grips.
Yeah,
you don't get carried away with the whole fucking uniform.
I think if you start in a gi too, like it makes your base better, your defenses go through the roof because there's so many different ways you can get choked, and like you're always more conscious of being in danger and kind of having that like danger meter going on. Then when you take the gi off, if you like it, it's faster and it's more attack friendly. But I think as you get older, it's harder.
Yeah, I believe that so much that at my school here in Long Island, Huntington, New York, you're not allowed to take the gi. Up until you get your fourth stripe on your white belt, you're not allowed to go to the no gi classes.
Yeah, no, that's great.
That way, by the time they do, they got a solid foundation. They're strong. Right. You know what I mean? They don't want to put the gi on after that. That's on them. You know what I mean? I prefer it. I want them to, and they usually do. They usually get it by then. They understand. When I was younger, like I just preferred no gi. I'm short. I'm compact. I get a little bit of space. They're hard to get my limbs. I was very flexible, yet I'm strong up top, so it's hard to pass. You know what I mean? So it was like they can't control me for shit. You know what I was talking about the other day with John Danaher, actually, is it's funny. I was catching up with John about something, and then we got into this conversation. I go, dude, if the techniques we had this back in the day, like with the outside ashi, just going from the regular heel hook and then bringing the leg to the outside in the transition, going to the outside. With some of these transitions, in a few of my UFC fights, when I'm on bottom, or even in Abu Dhabi versus Leo Santos, who's still fighting today, that stud, my entries for my ashis were always good, always well. I pulled guard on fucking my second UFC fight versus Eve Edwards when he had me up in the cage in a tie clinch. I pulled guard. I got him in a heel hook. I fucking got that thing. He rolled. I got on top, punched him in the face a few times with the heel hook. If I knew these other finishes, I'm telling you right now, John's like, he's like, let me finish let me finish. John's fucking funny because it's the way he delivers stuff with his creepy accent. He goes, let me finish your sentence for you. You would be 2 division champion. I go, well, look, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I would have took some fucking legs, though. I guarantee it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I would get in on those things and go forward like nobody's business. But the finishing wasn't as polished as it is now, obviously. So, there's no regrets. I just didn't know it back then, and I always went for it. But I'm thinking, if I knew that back then, and it's not like it's anything new. That's what people have to understand. Like John studied all this. John's a master at studying fights and tapes. He's looking at the Shudo fights back in the day. He's looking at all these. Look at hold on.
Ruminasato?
How do you say
Ruminasato?
Sato's first name.
Ruminasato.
Thank you. Say it again.
Ruminasato. I think that's it. Someone's going to correct me on the forum. You fucking idiot. It's not. It's ramen. It's Ruminasato.
That's it. Sato. You look at some of his leg entries.
Yeah.
We'd have guys visit Renzo Gracie's school in Manhattan. We'd always have visitors. And there's some guys that were expert at legs. But because they were just so one-dimensional, they either get your leg. If they lost it, they get mounted and they're not getting out. Right. You know what I mean? So now that you got these world-class black belts that before even doing an Ashigrami, they got a solid game. Now you give them all the lower body stuff. Oh, man. You know, that's why you got the Gordon Ryan, the Gary Tonins, the fucking Jason Rouse.
Yeah, like Aminari was huge with that. He was really one of the first guys in MMA that people were legitimately terrified to fight before, like the oh god, what's his name that was tearing everyone's fucking ankle apart?
Paul Harris.
Yeah, Paul Harris. Before that, yeah, I remember Aminari just always butt scooting and heel hooking everybody. But if he couldn't get you in a heel hook, you probably beat him. You beat him on his feet. You beat him wrestling. You beat him everywhere else. But now it's crazy. These guys are so fluid with these leg locks. Where was John Danaher when you were fighting? Was he training or was that a later?
He was dude. He was with me, man. He came in. Listen, John was a big, burly, hair down to his shoulders, bouncer from New Zealand, who was also a philosophy teacher at fucking Columbia. He was an interesting guy from day one. So I was there from the beginning. I was his teacher in the beginning, you know. Eventually he becomes my teacher, but he's at the time. I remember John being a big guy trying to throw me off a cross-eye. You get stuff you can't imagine now. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then we go to Burritoville and discuss things. John, I know. I'm so happy for John because, but first of all, John's got that kind of mind where whatever he put it to, I really truly, I believe if he got tested, he'd be a genius. I'm telling you, that's what I don't know it for a fact, but I believe he's a fucking genius. So, and he's such an interesting guy where he didn't even own a television until one of my buddy, Chad LeBrun, was moving back to Virginia, and he gave him something that had the TV with a DVD and a VHS thing in it so he could study tapes. That's all he had it for. So listen, you put a mind like that, you know, on this. So, I mean, and for me, I seen his journey, so I'm so happy for him. He deserves everything, you know.
At what point did arguably, right, Danaher with the Death Squad and the split, everything, he's probably the most prolific or well-known coach when it comes to no-gi grappling over the last several years, starting with like GSP and stuff really making noise. At what point did you feel like this guy is something special in the way of coaching?
Well, what happened was, like, when I would see, like, I would always visit to Manhattan for some of my fights, right? So then, like, John was the main teacher there on whatever days he was teaching. And, you know, obviously, when it became his main gig, being the head instructor there, it was him and Sean Williams after, like, I think myself, Rodrigo Gracie, and Ricardo Almeida opened up our own schools. Then it was Sean Williams and John Danaher taking over the reins, you know? So when John's like, all right, look, if I'm going to do this, I'm not going to be some half-ass instructor. So that's what really made him like just take it to the next level. So, you know, I knew John's such a genius, but we'd always be, you know, as jiu-jitsu brothers, we'd always be going over information, and all of us, you know. So I would always go to the city and be like, oh, look, what are you working on, John? And this and that. And then he just got so brilliant. I'm like, it was for my last few fights, I brought him out for Matt Hughes just because, you know, I need people to train me off. And Renzo, who is phenomenal, but Renzo's a hard guy to peg down. Yeah. He'll be there for you when you need him. But, you know, if I'm getting a camp and I got to go to Vegas early for a couple of weeks, like for the Matt Hughes fight, I brought in John Danaher to a couple of weeks. He didn't work the corner, but he was there training me, putting me in positions. You need somebody you trust to put you through that. And being me, not being who I am, but the seniority of where I was on the totem pole over there, I need a guy I could trust, not just a student that would be like, yeah, you're doing great, Matt. You know, I need a guy that would be, this is what we're lacking. This is what you need to do here. And I, you know what I mean? And John I fully trust. So I started bringing him in back in the day. If you look up some of these old video blogs I did, he'd be on my video blogs for the Frank Trigg fight and everything else. It's funny. I had two guys like Matt Hughes and Frank Trigg, different type wrestlers, but wrestlers, with different type styles on the floor. Matt Hughes, more of a positional, get side control. That's where he's most dangerous. He'll look to pass and do some damage and get you in a crucifix and then work you over. And then you got a guy like Frank Trigg who kind of just plants himself in your guard and punches through your submissions. Yeah. So that was a solid 6 months of me and Johnny just, going through different scenarios to handle those kind of problems. And so it was great, man. And for Matt Hughes, it worked. I mean, I walked out of that fight clean. And, and for Frank Trigg, I knocked his ass out, so I didn't get to use all the cool shit we were doing. But still, I love Johnny, and, he's a fantastic coach.
Just to change the gears back to the UFC, obviously GSP is arguably your biggest win. What was your most nerve-wracking fight? Did you ever have a time you're like, this was, why do I do this for a living?
Look, my second fight in the UFC was a little nerve-wracking because, back then, back fist now are no big deal. You'll catch one almost every UFC or two. And there's a knockout with a back fist. Oh, man, it happens. But you want to see the first guy who had one. Hey, that's this guy.
Is that Shoney Carter?
I'm sure we all seen that. Me and Shoney Carter, my first UFC fight. Guy's wearing a Speedo and whatever else. 15 seconds left, and I just ran into him. At that point, I really had to do the on-the-job training with my stand-up. As far as clocking in the hours with the sparring and stuff, because just like jiu-jitsu, it just doesn't come overnight. I knew I had power as a fighter. Like before I even did jiu-jitsu, well, I heard of it. I saw those tapes of Gracie in action. But when I was 18, I did something called the Tough Man Contest at the Palladium in Manhattan. I had to fight 3 times in one night. It was all heavyweights, 175 and up. Knocked out 2 guys. Last one I got fucked up. I made it through, but my jaw got busted. To this day, my jaw got fucked up. And
that's your jaw.
Anyway, that was my jaw. Yeah.
Holy shit!
Damn. Wow. So the point is, I knew I had power because I never sparred a day in my life. I went in this contest, and I did good. And plus, whatever situations I had in the street, I knew I could punch. My father used to hold pads for me and stuff, but I did not clock in any spar. My sparring is up until that point. It was weird, man, because I went from a street scrappy kid that even fought in that Tough Man Contest at 18 to adapting the jiu-jitsu philosophy in the very beginning, like we know, Jay, where, hey man, don't exchange at all. You can't do that. You could be the better fighter, but he lands a shot, you're done. Don't exchange. You manage your distance, you get in, you get the fight floor. That's where you do your damage. Right. And that was the jiu-jitsu philosophy.
For sure.
So I had to adapt that. I had to unlearn my grittiness of, I'll get hit and I'll hit you, that type of thing. And so my sparring was always, I'd strike to get it. Everything was in the intention of getting the fight to the floor, which was okay in the beginning. But again, things, as we've seen everything progress, if I had that same philosophy, if I didn't start saying, hey man, look, I have to clock in the sparring like I did at Longos and with guys from the Golden Gloves and whatnot, strictly just doing the boxing, strictly just doing the kickboxing, not allowed to take it to the floor. And obviously, eventually, by putting the time in, you're rolling with punches. You're getting all the stuff that you see. If you see me fight GSP and you see me fight even Eve Edwards or Shoney Carter, it's 2 different guys. Standing up, it was just me. I was never a pussy, but I had no timing. I mean, even my second fight with Shoney, he hit me with the back fist again because it's very easy to tell you what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get a hold of you. So he has the leg out there. I hold it. He puts it down. I get hit with the back fist. It's almost comical. But now I would have been like, dude, I would have fucking laid him out. So anyway, the point of the what the fuck was the question again, Jay?
Vinny, let's chime in here. Remember what that question was? That was a tangent.
I took you on a tour of Long Island with that question.
That's so we went around the block and back. I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I was talking about your most nerve-wracking fight getting in there.
So I lost to that back fist with Shoney, is what my point was. And the second fight, you know, if I'm losing that fight, I'm out of the UFC, most likely.
Right.
So I'm fighting a more dangerous striker. They used to call Eve the Fist back in the day, before I think Josh Neer took the nickname. But I remember I was watching tape on him and hooking and shooting. He messed up Aaron Riley's grill with his knees and his tie clinch. And I go, all right, this guy's – and Ray Longo's watching this stuff going, all right, this guy's definitely a better striker than Shoney. You know, I didn't give Shoney enough. Shoney's more of a crafty guy that pulls off shit. And he's tricky, but this guy was fucking deadly, Eve Edwards. So I'm like, fuck, man, I got this guy ahead of me. And then all of a sudden, I remember, and I talked about this with Eve recently because I had him on my podcast. And he started talking some shit in an interview of like, yeah, people have him as the favorite because of his ground game. And me, you know, he got knocked out with a death punch or spinning death thing. And that's when I'm like, I'm back. That's all I needed, motherfucker. And then actually Sato strangled him, the guy we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So I started going back. That's the first time I ever had to have an interaction of talking shit with somebody. So I started going at him and getting choked by Sato, and that just brought me up. Now I know why I got in this. I go, fuck, lose or not, I'm going to get the hold of this guy.
Where were you guys talking shit though? Because this is like way back before like Twitter and social media was popular. Were you sending each other postcards or like?
No. I read something in Full Contact Fighter magazine.
Okay. Or you went on like the underground short forums or like submissionfighter.com and you had to get the green name to talk shit.
Yeah. Something like Sherdog. I never got on the forums, and I don't even think I don't know if the forums were around back then. Maybe they were. They probably were, but you know. Yeah, just whatever MMA sites we were doing it with. Yeah. But it got me pumped.
Yeah, man.
It got to me remember why you know. And not only that, dude, not to sound like an old dude, it literally was just September 28th. I fought him 20 years ago, dude. That's wow. I fought Eve said 20 years ago. But when I did fight him, it was right after 9/11. So that's another thing that kind of made me put things in perspective. I go, okay, if the worst thing that happens here is I lose a fight, there's some guys that never made it to the UFC. And I'm watching people jump out of burning buildings here. So, you know what? I'm ahead of the game here. Let me just – and Longo wouldn't – he had young kids at the time. It was such strange times. He didn't go board that plane the fucking corner of me. He goes, oh, man, my wife won't let me go type of thing. It was such a strange time. But it worked out okay because I won the fight.
Man, that's awesome, man. I could talk to you for hours, man. We got somebody squeezing in here in a couple of minutes. What's the best way? Oh, man,
look how fast that goes.
It goes quick, man. I know. Sometimes I talk to people and I'm like, every minute feels like a fucking eternity, but I can listen to you talk forever, man.
Trips down memory lane.
Yeah, like Vinny's been Cheech has been on this thing the whole time. Has said 3 words. Oh, wow. Neat.
Vinny, man.
What's up, Matt?
It's like, but where's the best place for everyone to find you on social media?
I'm on Instagram. I'm not on Twitter. Twitter's too negative. Too many people with a fucking
Instagram. What's your Instagram?
But I'm on Instagram. Matt Serra BJJ on Instagram.
Beautiful. You know? And then you're doing the Dana White and the fight. Dana White looking for a fight series. That's on ESPN or is it online now?
No. You could Dana White looking for a fight on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcast. If you want to listen to UFC Unfiltered with myself and the great Jimmy Norton. People call him Jim Norton. I call him Jimmy. But if you ever want to listen to that, that's a fun time too. Hey, Vinny, we'll catch up next time, dude. I like that you popped your head in, though.
Thanks, Matt. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Thanks, man. Talk to you
later. Let's do it again sometime,
Jay. Absolutely, man. Appreciate it. Thanks, man.
You got it, brother. Be good.
Take care, guys.